Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you may be. I know this is an international crowd today. We've got people all over the world. Thank you so much for joining us for this circuitry session. For those of you who haven't joined in on these conversations before in the past, what we've been exploring for the past 6 or 7 weeks is this very fascinating topic in human design called circuitry. And circuitry is the study of how the various channels in the body graph flow through the centers in order to exchange information. Okay. And so far, we've covered, well, six of the seven circuit groups, which are broken down into major, minor circuit groups. We started off with the tribal circuit group, which has the major circuit group of the tribal ego, which, as we explored, has a primary emphasis on establishing business and setting up bargains within our community structures. Also, that the tribal defense circuit, which is the minor circuit group associated with tribal circuitry, can successfully procreate and support and raise and nurture our children, and also care for those who are unable to care for themselves. Again, the tribal circuit group in totality is super keynoted by the term support. So it's very much so about supporting one another, materialistic, capitalistic exchange and barter, and the senses are touch and smell. So it's very physical. So again, exploring that circuit group gave us a lot of insight on how we are either conditioned or designed to participate within the context of family, business, and community structures. We evolved from the tribal circuit group into the collective, which is broken down into two circuit groups. There's the collective abstract sensing, which is an emotional longing and desire to gather new experiences and to go through unexpected challenges with the capacity to persevere and kind of trust that you're going to be in the right place at the right time so that you can come out of these cyclical endeavors as a witness to it all and be called upon for your wisdom and capacity to sort of recall things and share how you personally have experienced things. Also, with the collective abstract sensing circuit group, it's where you'll see terms like beliefs and the sharing of ideas and the recollection of the past, sort of like a historian casually describing past events to an attentive audience. So the dancing partner to, and we noted that the collective abstract sensing circuit has a dancing partner, which is the logic, and how the sensing group has no real capacity to plan for the future or be very strategic. It's all about emotions and like sensing things and seeing things and having a desire to experience things, but not necessarily is it equipped with the capacity to master through the use and application of logic. That's where we see the logic understanding circuit group come in with its ability to measure and establish formulas and test hypotheses and come up with answers and share those answers with one another, so that the collective may benefit from our logical strategic approach to securing our future through planning and having, a very detail oriented approach to the expression of our skills. And yeah, so you'll see there's, again, very distinct differences even within the collective circuitry itself. One is very emotional and one is very splenic. And one is, experienced more so with, or interested more so in gathering experiences, whereas the logic side of things really wants to perfect and critique and make things perfect. So yeah, we moved from the collective group into individuality. And what we saw, first of all, with the individuality is that there's this component called integration. And with integration, which is that funny looking channel to the middle left of the body graph when you look at it full on, is that there is this deep individual survival, busy in the now for myself that's built into humanity and capable of guiding and directing the individual to make decisions for the benefit of themselves. And that integration is, again, primarily concerned with oneself. It can come off as a very selfish sort of energy. It's keynoted by self-empowerment rather than support or sharing. So again, if you have integration in your design, or you know someone with a lot of integration energy in their design, don't be surprised if you yourself or those that you know can come across as very self-absorbed in their tendencies. And for them or for yourself, that's just fine. That's kind of how it's designed to be. It's designed to survive for oneself in the now moment through being busy doing things and behaving in a way that works for you as a strategy for interaction with others. We then jumped ahead into the centering circuit group, which is this minor circuit group associated with individual knowing, the individual circuit group. And the centering circuit group that we covered last week is really interesting because it's essentially the power to behave in such a way that can actually be empowering for other people, where you can transform and inspire other people's behavioral tendencies, combined with this very competitive, sort of egotistical need to be first sort of energy that we see through the channel of initiation. Okay, so now what we're going to be looking at today is the final sort of circuit group, considering the major and minor in the body graph. And this particular circuit group is called the knowing circuit. And it's essentially a combination of channels that run through 8 of the 9 centers in the body graph, excluding the heart center. As we saw last week, the only way that the individual energy has access to the heart center is through the channel of initiation, a desire of needing to be first. Interesting to note that the collective circuit group has no access to the heart center. Okay. So, but rather, the knowing circuit that we're going to look at today is one of the most complex and one of the most energetic. It has access to, like I said, 3 of the 4 primary motors, all of the awareness centers, the head center and the G center. So it really does represent most of the quantum that you can see in a chart when looking at yourself or those close to you. Okay, and the knowing circuit can be understood in simple terms as the individual whose unique knowing brings mutation and empowerment to others, or of course oneself. All right. It's the ability under pressure to come up with unique ways of thinking and to be able to explain oneself, to produce a unique result, and to have a very fixed, unique individual direction in the world that you follow for yourself, marching to the beat of your own drum. It's very different from the tribe, very different from the collective. All right. It's also where you'll see themes of moodiness and social openness or not. And of course, the struggle to survive and to find one's unique individual purpose in the world, and this deep drive to actually want to live it out, even if it means that you have to fight for what your purpose is and what you believe that you need to stand up for yourself in the world. Okay. Again, just a quick review, because I know I kind of gave a bit of a riff there on all of this, all of the groups already, but we'll quickly review the centering circuit from last week, just again, so those who may need to hear this again or haven't joined us before. The super keynote of the centering circuit, and as you'll see, the centering circuit runs from the 3410, 2551. You can also read it the other way, 5125, 1034. The super keynote is empowerment, okay? And it's empowerment of both the self and other individuals, okay? It's a minor circuit within the individual circuit group, which is very distinct from the integration channel, although it's kind of complex because it does share component gates. So when you're learning about the centering and integration, and even today with the 5720, as we look through individual knowing, there's like 3 different circuit groups that all run through integration, or 2 plus the integration channel. So it's kind of complex. Okay. It enhances individual willpower, competitiveness, and uniqueness, encouraging individuals to follow their convictions and stay true to themselves in all situations. So again, if you're someone with the 3410, it would be really interesting and important for you to note and begin to explore within the context of yourself how important it is to you to stand up for what you believe in and to follow your own convictions, and to yield to the power within you to behave in a very specific way in interaction with other people. Because in most circumstances, again, being a generator, that's likely what's going to bring you a sense of satisfaction. When you can follow, you have the power to follow your own convictions. Okay. And again, unlike the self-focused integration channel, the centering circuit can inspire positive behavioral changes in others. Okay, akin to a coach transforming a client's unhealthy tendencies, for example. Or as with the example we used last week with a real person, with Zidane, who had the whole centering circuit. He was a highly competitive, or was a highly competitive football player, soccer player, turned coach. Okay, so he helped to lead his team to multiple victories as a player and now as a coach. Okay, and there to empower the behavior and be a force of empowerment for his athletes or under his leadership responsibility. Themes such as self-love, independence, and a competitive spirit in the centering circuit can initiate transformative journeys of self-exploration and empowerment in others. Okay. The centering circuit linked to the heart center and encompassing the non-tribal 5125 channel embodies a competitive individualism and spiritual courage, symbolized by the act of diving into the unknown or jumping into the void. And again, as we noted, it's the one interesting sort of relationship with the context of the ego or the heart center where the individual actually has representation, where the individual can jump out from the tribe and distance itself from the tribe, be the first one to separate itself from tribal responsibilities, or again, in certain circumstances, maybe even be seen as the competitive athlete who is supported by and rooted by their home team to perform on the field and can bring home the gold. Also, very important to note that the individual centering circuit and really all of individuality, the senses are anchored or rooted in the acoustic realm, which means sound. So sound, music, speech, spoken word, recording things, listening to things, being able to know something based on what you hear, being able to derive a knowing of the truth based on what someone says, okay? Knowing how to behave in the now moment based on the information that you can take in acoustically. Very different from the collective, which is based in an ocular or visual awareness, or the tribe, which is all about touch and smell, okay? With individuality, and especially today with the individual knowing circuit that passes through all three awareness centers, it's deeply rooted in sound, okay? Okay, so as you'll see, simply visually, just looking at the body graph on the left here, knowing circuit is very complex. A lot of quantum involved with it. Like I said, it has access to 8 of the 9 centers. And even individuality, if you include the minor circuits of individuality into the totality of the individual, all 9 centers have access or are accessed by this larger knowing individual circuit group. But again, if we break it down just into the knowing circuit itself, you can see that it runs from the root through the sacral up into the G, eventually to the throat, also from the root into the spleen up into the throat, root solar plexus up into the throat, and then top down from the head, ajna, down to the throat. Okay? A lot of energy, a lot of melancholy, a lot of potential for uniqueness and individual expression. So the knowing circuit is the major circuit of the individual circuit group. It represents a melancholic creative pulse that exists to bring about mutation from one individual to the other. It is highlighted by themes such as unique creative direction, which can be inspirational, the ability to know things and explain them clearly to others, the mood to be social and open with others or not, and the struggle to find purpose and survive from one day to the next with a sense of empowerment. Altogether, the knowing circuit is characterized by its role in empowering unique creative direction, social openness, clarity and communication, and a meaningful pursuit of purpose outside of tribal traditions or collective norms. Again, the individuality within us is seeking unique purpose. And whether that unique purpose is expressed through one's penetrating awareness in the now, or that unique purpose is expressed through the capacity to explain what we know, or if that unique purpose is, produced through being under pressure to respond to life's difficulties and engage in work that you love to do, so you can be seen as an influential creative role model, okay? Or to find the spirit in others or within yourself through social interactions, or to participate in some type of struggle, right, that brings about a sense of purpose in your life. It's all about the individual finding their place, again, outside of the context of traditional tribal roles, expectations, patterns of loyalty, and the collective norms. The knowing circuit is deeply attuned to sound patterns, be it speech, music, environmental, or otherwise. This circuit group derives its knowledge from what it hears and expresses its insights through speaking and artistic expressions such as a teacher explaining, a musician performing, or a bioacoustician recording the sounds of birds in the forest. Unlike the tribe with its neediness for touch and smell, or the collective with its ocular process of shared visual stimulus, individuals have the unique ability to discern truth and find inspiration by tuning into the underlying frequency of the acoustic realm. Essentially what this means is if you're 39, 55, 12, 22, for example, okay, so like a moody social being, your emotional state will often be affected by what you hear other people say. Okay, so if someone walks into your life and they start to speak in a way that you don't resonate with, or if they start to ask you to do things that you don't resonate with, or they basically try to call you out and plug you into some collective tribal structure, this is where the moods will flare up and the emotions will kick in, and you may become antisocial and not willing to want to participate because the individual, again, is affected by what it hears and especially what other people say. Okay, and then of course it's a back and forth exchange. So what you hear other people say is going to affect your emotions and vice versa. If you're in a really good mood, okay, and you start to speak, it can come across as incredibly empowering for those who are listening. Or if you're in a really bad mood and you're feeling really bitter or really angry or really frustrated, and you start to, spew out all of this not self dialogue into the environment, and you're an individual, that's going to have a very disempowering effect on other people. Okay. And it's not about what you see, and it's not about even necessarily how you touch or interact with the world. It's what you say where your greatest impact will be felt. Okay. This circuit group is the most complex of all the circuit groups as it connects to 8 of the 9 centers within the body graph, as I've already said. Running from the root through the sacral, so root, sacral, up to the G, and eventually to the throat, you will see the connection between the format energy for mutation, linked to the availability of the sacral to release resources, aka personal energy, in pursuit of a unique creative direction, which is ultimately expressed through individual leadership by example. That is, the creative role model who inspires others through their unique contributions. And remember, all of this is happening in the now moment. It's either happening and it's this creative, mutative occurrence that's very difficult, if not impossible, to plan for, or it's not, meaning there's this sense of restlessness or restraint or melancholy and potential sadness where nothing new is happening, okay? And that's the pulse. It's like the individual is either very satisfied and happy and filled with passion because they're demonstrating or they're explaining or they're following their unique direction and being a creative social person, or they're not. and they feel stuck, and they feel like nothing will ever change, and nothing good will ever come their way. And it can be very difficult for individuals to break out of that restlessness or that sense of limitation or feeling stuck. Again, with the 360, there is the potential for depression in here. Again, if you read into the lines, where someone feels stuck, they feel depressed, that nothing new is happening, and that they themselves are not engaged in anything new, or they themselves are not pursuing their unique purpose, so they feel frustrated by that restraint and frustrated by that uncertainty. Running from the head down through the ajna and eventually expressing through the throat, you will find what is called the stream of knowing. So it's these four gates, 6124, 4323. Okay, and the stream of knowing is this energy which represents a mental pressure to know the unknowable, okay, the mysteries, to rationalize one's thinking, and to transform this thinking process into insightful communication that will come across as an assimilation of structured information. Unlike the collective, with its fixed association with the past or future, the stream of knowing operates in the now moment, with a deep and extremely powerful ability to express the unique truth of the individual and cut through the density of collective interpretation. An aware thinker that can structure their individuality and communicate their knowing to others can be a force of empowerment and genius when operating from the authenticity of the self. It can, however, come across as freakish and offensive, potentially, okay, and be rapidly rejected when its explanations don't come across in a clear and convincing manner. A great lesson for any individual, therefore, is not to give up in the face of rejection. Okay? The knowing circuit and individuality and individual energy is challenging to live with, challenging to express, and challenging at times to receive, because, like I said, it's not based on tribal traditions. It's not based on things that have happened in the past, and it's not based on some projected plan going into the future. It's mutative. It's new. It's like someone saying something and transforming and empowering you with their perspectives completely out of nowhere, right? Like, wow, how do they know that? Or how is it that they understand that, right, in such a way where they could actually explain it? And often what happens here again with the 43 being the fear of rejection, the 4323, which carries the responsibility of actually explaining individuality, okay, is that 4323s or those with the 43, if they're unable to clearly and efficiently explain their knowing and their unique perspectives, they can be rapidly rejected by the collective or by the tribe. Because again, the tribe is stuck in its ways. The collective has long-term commitments that they don't want to be interfered with. And our past, well, a unique individual interpretation about the past is likely always going to be challenged by someone who has a better idea. Okay. And yet, it's through individuality and this knowing energy where we receive our breakthrough insights. It's where real progress can actually be made because of a unique perspective or something another individual knows for themselves that other people didn't necessarily have a grasp on or didn't see as possible. When that unique individual can explain themselves clearly and promote that breakthrough insight, it can have a transformative, empowering effect that can really help to accelerate knowing and understanding and sensing within the entirety of those that it can touch and those that it can interact with. So running from the root. So now we're going to move away from this power column, okay? Where again, you'll see primarily here, this is generator territory. Anybody with the 360 is going to be a generator. Anybody with the 14.2 is going to be a generator. And of course, you can have projectors, because it's a projected channel with the 1.8, manifestors, generators, and then reflectors having component gates associated with this column as well. Okay? But in terms of the channel quantum, it's mostly generative territory. But as we move over into the pressurized emotional communication department, okay, on the anatomical left, aka right side of the body graph, you'll see running from the root through the solar plexus and up to the throat is what's referred to as the stream of emoting, which is derived from, again, the 3955 channel of emoting, sign of moodiness. This is a deeply emotional, moody, melancholic, passionate energy that represents the continual provocative drive of uncertainty in the individual knowing process that is always shifting from happiness to sadness, to happiness to sadness, to happiness to sadness, to happiness to sadness, over and over again, okay? Forever and always provoked by spirit to open oneself to social interaction where the human drama of romance and the soap operas of our lives are acted out on the social stage of our life through the 1222, okay? It is critical for those who carry this energy to practice only being social when they are open to it and in the mood to do so. Interaction with others when one is down in their wave, especially in a moody wave. So if you're really not in the mood to interact with other people, that would be, again, part of your inner authority process. You know, the 3955 or a 2212. Here we find projectors and manifestors, okay, if they just had those channels. It's really to tune in to see whether or not you're in the mood to be social. Because again, interaction with others when one is down in their wave can lead to things being said that can impact others in a disempowering way. Like I mentioned, you know, individuals make their mark through what they say. And if you're in a bad mood and you're out engaging socially with other people and you end up tearing someone a new one because you are in a bad mood, that's going to come back to you, right? And again, remember, as an individual, there's no one else to blame. Right? It's not like you can blame someone in the collective for your moods or blame someone in your tribe for your moods. It's all on you. You know, this is the most sort of personal energy that you're going to see. Okay. Interactions with others when one is down in their wave can lead to things being said that can impact others in a disempowering way. For example, such as a manifestor choosing to go out to a social gathering in a bad mood. I'm using the manifestor because if they had the 3955, 2212, or even just the 2212 as their only life force in their design, they would be a manifestor by definition. So going out to a social gathering in a bad mood and angrily lashing out at others when asked how they're feeling, which would be a failure to empower. So again, remember, that's kind of that's how you know, other than your signature, following strategy and inner authority. If you really want to know whether or not you're having a positive impact on other people as an individual, it's to see and tune into whether or not you're having an empowering effect, whether or not you're recognizing other people, whether or not you're making people laugh, you know, whether or not you're promoting a sense of abundance and joy and happiness in those that you gracefully listen to and interact with and share stories with, okay? It's I just want to use one example because someone I used to work with, this girl that I used to work with, she was a 2212. She was a manifestor on the cross of informing with only the 12 and 22 activated. And she couldn't have been much taller than like 5'3", okay, like 120 pounds soaking wet. And yet oh my God, the potential for anger and the potential to have an impact on her environment was so tremendous. It was tremendous. Like, again, if you're a manifestor and you have this channel, really to understand that no matter your size physically, you can have an amazingly either empowering or disempowering effect on the people around you through what you say and how your words come across to other people. It's incredible the power that can be transmitted from the solar plexus to the throat through one's speaking and social interactions. You know, really remarkable. I'll never forget it. Some of the things that she used to say, and there'd be like a group of 10 of us just like gobsmacked, and put in our place very quickly. If someone were to make a mistake, she was really didn't like mistakes. So if a mistake happened, she'd, lay into us. And just for those of you out there who have a 2212 or even the 3955, just to realize that you have a tremendous impact on other people. And it's either going to come across as empowering or disempowering. And it all has to do with your mood. Okay. And practicing sort of restraining your words when you're not in the mood, if that's correct for you, or really allowing yourself to open up to social interaction when you are in the mood, so you can practice articulating your feelings and getting your spirit out there without fear of rejection, without fear of comparison, that your unique feelings matter is really, really important. Okay. And again, such social embarrassments as an individual with this kind of energy stepping out into social interactions, repeated over time, can lead to antisocial tendencies and emotional withdrawal and isolation. Again, if you look at the 22nd gate, 5th line in detriment, you'll see that. Or again, with the extreme emotional withdrawal and isolation, if you look at the 12th gate, 1st line in detriment, you'll also see that kind of descriptive energy, where even though, yes, what you have here is a social being, you can have an incredibly antisocial person, okay, at the same time. The task with this energy is to develop warm and empowering social skills, ideally, where people are moved by your voice and inspired by the powerful emotional undertones of your speaking and way of articulating. And of course, being emotional, there's no truth in the now. Clarity develops over time. And then, of course, completing the circuit group, we have the channel of struggle and the channel of awareness, the design of penetrating awareness in the now. We have running from the root into the spleen and then up to the throat is what we call the stream of intuition. Okay, so again, just like the collective abstract sensing and the collective understanding logic, there is this sort of mirror process where you have direct representation of this sort of binary kind of energy. One is very moody, emotional, social, antisocial. Now on the other side, you have this very cool, splenic, can be extremely clear and existentially correct in its knowing and in its intuition for what to struggle for in the now moment. Okay. This is a deeply acoustic energy as well that is guided by splenic intuition for knowing what to struggle for in order to know that one is aligned with their purpose in life and living each day authentically with aliveness in the now moment. Honoring a penetrating awareness that can say what one knows is healthy to do or not in any given moment. And that's what you'll see through the 5720. Because if you think about it just at a basic level, we have the spleen speaking. And if you think about the spleen, remember the spleen is this survival awareness. It's the feel-good center. So someone at 5720 can really make other people feel good and feel empowering when they speak in the now moment. Okay? Or not. Of course, the binary is always true. The struggle aspect, which you'll see down here, the 3828, has the ability to fight against opposition. And opposition is anybody who goes against the unique perspective of the individual, to preserve one's unique individual integrity and to take calculated risks in order to do so. And if you look at the 28th gate, third line, you'll see the line of adventurism. Okay, so this is the rationalizing of risk-taking and the empowerment through the struggle to fight and defend one's unique individual perspective in order to find purpose. Okay. And if you think of it sort of holistically, in order for an individual's knowing and explanations to really take hold within the collective or within the tribe, they're going to have to stand up and fight for what they believe in a way like to defend their unique position. Okay, so if you're a 38, 39, sort of a provocative fighter, and you're someone with a lot of knowing in their design, again, it's for you to be able to defend your unique individual insights against the swarm of the collective and all of their opinions and all of their ideas and the hierarchical, traditional, pattern-based perspectives associated with the tribe and how they go about their daily business. Okay. For the individual to really make it and for their knowing to take hold within a collective context, you got to be able to stand up for your unique perspective. Okay. That's the kind of energy that the 3828 can provide at one level. So the stubborn determination to face off against overwhelming odds and combat those who stand in your way from achieving your mission can bring a deep feeling of success when one is aligned with their nature correctly, or a deep feeling of bitterness when the struggle is nothing but that, a struggle with no reward or recognition. Ultimately, this energy is within us to provide the individual with the capacity and awareness needed to live in the now moment, attuned to their unique purpose and what is healthy for them to be engaged with, in alliance, potentially, with other individuals, where mutual trust is the glue that holds it all together and makes fighting the good fight worthwhile in the end. Again, I should mention that channels that run between the root and the spleen are often referred to as athletic channels. So exercise can be a very healthy outlet for those who carry the 3828 because it allows for that adrenalized bodily feel-good endorphin release and just release of the tension through exercise. Okay. So the nature of the knowing circuit, just sort of to review, encompasses the transformation of format energy, which again is this pure creative potential, okay, for mutation into direction into unique creative leadership, okay, with an emphasis on present focused individual truth expression, fluctuating emotional states guiding social interaction, and the focus on aligning one's own unique purpose and healthily expressing individuality with determination. Okay. Again, if you think about it, being an individual can be a real social struggle. Okay. And it can come with all of this emotional energy and a sense of restraint, a unique direction that's completely different from the collective or the tribe. All right. And in order to be able to express your unique perspectives, you're going to have to be able to defend yourself in a way so that your uniqueness isn't diluted by, again, like I said before, sort of the onslaught of the collective and all of its opinions and ideas for what should be or what has been in the past. Okay. Unique individual knowing and unique communication and the capacity to empower other people with new ideas and new ways of thinking, right, is always going to be a bit of a challenge, but there's nothing more rewarding than for an individual to be able to speak their truth and to engage in social interactions with others that bring about a sense of empowerment for those that they're focused on. I guess I could comment now on the sort of conditioning impact of this energy. Obviously starting with the solar plexus If you're someone who has an undefined or open solar plexus, it would be an interesting experience to look at the people in your life who may have the 3955 or the 2212 to see how their moods and social, antisocial, potentially angry tendencies have affected you. Okay. And how there may be, again, someone with an undefined solar plexus, a tendency to want to avoid the potential of dealing with the truth of the situation because you're having to go up against some unique individual's mood wave. Okay, so just understanding that that's a major component of the conditioning field, as always, with the solar plexus, is those who take in and amplify individual moodiness from other people. Um, the pressure and the conditioning to have a purpose that you're designed to fight for. You may or may not have a unique individual purpose. Okay, maybe your purpose is more associated with the collective or the tribe. Doesn't necessarily mean you're actually designed to have a unique purpose per se. You understand what I mean by that? Not to say that everyone doesn't have a purpose for the context of their design, but some people really are designed to be a part of like tribal business structures and uh, collective structures, rather than sort of being more entrepreneurial, or how do we say, quote unquote, innovative in their approach. Okay. Like, not everybody's designed to be an inventor, or not everyone is designed necessarily to come up with sort of breakthrough insights that can be successfully explained to the collective. All right. And like I said, it's not even necessarily something you would particularly want to hope for, because it comes with a lot of challenge. And again, the deep fear of and anxiety of rejection, having to constantly explain oneself when up against the being compared to and up against tribal collective norms. Obviously, there's a tremendous conditioning impact in the mental realm, in terms of the individual energy. As we know, most of humanity has an undefined or open head center. So those 6124s out in the world, which we'll see with the example I used today, are the ones conditioning other individuals with ways to think or how to think. This is where someone else's inspirational thought processes can have a deep conditioning impact on those with an undefined or open head center, causing people with an undefined or open head center to think about things that don't actually matter to them, or to be caught up in some thinking thought process, always trying to answer questions that are really the responsibility of those that actually carry this energy to answer. Okay. Of course, we can be conditioned by other individuals and their explanations. We can be conditioned by other individuals and their creative contributions and what they bring into the world, and how they themselves take on a leadership by example sort of style. Okay. And yet again, the difference here with individuality versus like the collective or the tribe is the individual just stands up and starts walking in the direction that they know is the correct direction for themselves. They're not necessarily concerned with convincing you to follow them. Okay, that's like what the collective does. The collective says, I have a plan, follow me. The individual says, I know where I'm going in the now moment. You can follow me if you want, but I don't really care. Okay, I'm here to be different. I'm here to be myself. I'm here to be unique. And there's no guarantee that if you follow me, we're even going to go in any particular direction that will be of benefit to you. Because again, the individual is filled with themes of uncertainty, of unknowing. Okay. And even an individual who has a very strong intuition, an emotional openness that knows that, okay, now is the right time to be socially interactive and to lead, they themselves may not at all understand that process. It's not like an individual has the capacity to gets you to understand why it is that the way that they are. Okay, it's like a natural ability to know things, a natural ability to be creative and to express one's knowing in the now moment. It's very difficult to even understand when it's going to pop up, let alone try to explain it to another person. So, which in many ways I think is part of the gift with design, is that you actually now can go into, of course, a body graph and be able to understand logically the qualities and characteristics of someone's individuality, okay? And to see how those aspects may, of course, express in social interactions with other people. Because again, it's mutative. It's hard to measure. It's hard to predict when a unique individual is going to say something that will transform and empower your life. Okay, I'm gonna take a break for a second. Is there any questions, comments, feedback? I'll check the comments. Or I need to write down that, yeah, not to give up when when you get rejected, of course. And of course, with the the ease and grace with the system is honoring your strategy and or authority, as a generator to explain things in response, if you're a projector to explain things through invitations, manifester to explain things when you know it's the correct time to inform people, the application as a reflector, of course, to explain things or to share your unique insights when you've given yourself enough time to develop a sense of objectivity rather than just kind of blurting things out without a sense of clarity or intuitive knowing. 1222 being a hermit is a need sometimes. Absolutely. That's right. I have a really good friend who's a 1222, and I think for him, most of it is unconscious. He's a manifester. And it's been tremendously beneficial for him to know that, yeah, like if he's not in the mood to be social, it's okay for him to pull back and just to let people know, like, I'm informing you that I'm not open right now. And then he can go off into his, creative melancholic muse and reemerge when he's ready to actually conversate. Um, there's the example with the 12.1, 12th gate first line in detriment, which is Simon the Stylite. This is like pretty sure it's like a Catholic religious figure who actually existed, who had he was so fed up with having to interact with all of these people who wanted his advice that he climbed up this like old pillar, this old stone pillar, and lived at the top of a pillar for 37 years to distance himself from social interaction with other people. And I just thought that's like a really interesting example, even within the Ravi Ching, to sort of showcase how sort of antisocial the 1222 can be. And then, of course, prana bringing in that integrity keynote, so important, you know. Uh, and then random bagel questions, okay? In the synthesis of human design, how do you view the overlap of the individual knowing circuitry, specifically the center channels and gates with the Kabbalah pillar of consciousness and the tree of life, the center pillar of the tree, as well as the yogic view of Shushumna energy? Also, I have no idea, friend. I don't know.
I figured I'd throw it out there just in case. No worries. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I would not be able to give you an accurate, if at all meaningful, interpretation of how those two overlap. But they are a
Yeah.
synthesis, right? It's like,
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of overlap. I mean, like even just in the head, right? The left, right, center. I mean, of the different gates, as they very much mirror kind of what you would find in the three first spheres within the tree of life within the Kabbalah. So I know they absolutely are derived from that in some way. I was just curious if they had a unique linear structure between all three of them.
right.
But net, don't force an answer. I was just curious if that was something that you considered.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure our open head centers would love looking into that in deeper detail, to unpack that mystery. uh, but I just don't
Totally.
know. Don't
All
know.
good. Don't worry, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other individuals in the group today? Also inspired to share. Otherwise, I'm going to continue on through the channels and go into our example for today. Okay. Or I'll see you typing. All right. Sounds good, Ori. Go back into it. As you can see, we've got a jam-packed slide today. A lot of individuality has a lot of quantum. I know I've said that before, and I'll say it again. It's amazing to see within the context of our own sort of genetic matrix just how much emphasis is given to mutation and to newness and to creativity, and for the capacity of the individual to have a unique perspective and to be able to be its own uh, independent thinker, which is what you'll see through the context of the 4323. Actually, I so I watched. I think this is kind of a good example. I watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 yesterday, and if anybody here has seen that movie, you'll know that sort of Rocket or the raccoon is sort of the main sort of emphasis of that entire movie, and it sort of recaps his early life as this sort of uh, modified animal that was sort of endowed with this ultimate um, capacity to be a self-aware, unique individual and actually be able to calculate things independently and to have a unique way of thinking. And it's sort of the whole movie is about, this evil uh, biogenetic creator god trying to get him back so that he could replicate his unique individual capacity to think and try to spread that ability uh, within his other creations, because none of his other creations had the ability to think on their own. They could be taught things and they could be given uh, memory patterns that they could replicate over and over again, sort of like, again, expression of logic. But none of his creations had this ability to think independently for themselves. It was like kind of this like highly sought after energy that he was trying to be able to replicate and instill within his other creations. So just, one example from pop culture where you see these themes of unique individual knowing, a unique perspective, and the ability again to be your own critical thinker is incredibly important for the species. Because if we didn't have anybody within the human totality who could come up with unique creative solutions to our unique problems in life, we would feel tremendously incapable of handling the challenges of the world in which we live in. Again, because like I said, collective sensing is always going to be referring to things that have been done in the past. What if you've never dealt with something before? So okay, you scratch that off the list. You can't refer to the past because we've never dealt with this before. And of course, the collective understanding projecting into the future. Okay, so like, what if your plans don't work out? Now what? Okay. And then, of course, with the tribal energy, like, well, we have these traditional roles and this family structure, and it's like emphasis on building community and business, but who's going to bring something new to the mix? Who's going to bring that new genetic material to the tribe? Again, this is the role of the individual, and how the individual can find their place in the world is through being a force of empowerment, a force of mutation, where you're like literally injecting a new code into the sequence. Okay. Um, like Neo from the Matrix. And actually, interestingly enough, Keanu Reeves is a 1/8. So I always thought that was kind of interesting to note. Neo well, at least the actor, Keanu Reeves is a 1/8, so he carries a lot of individual energy in his design, and you know, that's the power of the individual, to see through the matrix and to derive unique individual truth, and then to have the capacity to stand up and fight for what they know to be correct. All right, so centers, gates, and channels. There's a lot of them, as you can see. The screen is filled with words. 8 centers, 8 of the 9, minus the heart center, where the root brings the pressure to mutate, represents a pure creative power that's under pressure and can feel extremely limited when nothing new comes along. Yeah, and Pluto being around in that area over the past little while, very challenging. A lot of people being born with Pluto in the 60. So deepest truth is finding ways to deal with limitation. Okay. And it's like the 360 is like, make the best of what you have and trust that order will emerge from chaos. Because the 3 brings this ability to bring order into chaos. And yet again, it's not cyclical like the sensing, and it's not logical like the understanding. So it's hard to predict or make sense of when things are going to happen. It's either on or off. And when it's on, boy oh boy, can you be a real force of empowerment. And when it's off, boy oh boy, can you ever be a real depressed, melancholic individual. Okay, and it's kind of like almost no in between. You want to like a little biohack, of course, remember, what did we share right in the beginning of today's lecture with individual knowing? Is that individuality is accessed through sound. Okay, so if you're feeling melancholic and you're feeling stuck and slightly depressed, maybe listening to some music or spoken word or self-empowerment lectures where someone's guiding you through an exercise with their voice can help to lift you out of a state of depression, help to lift you out of a state of deep melancholy and a sense of restraint in your nature. Okay.
So is it normal then that I listen to you recorded going over these at night?
Yes.
Help me? Okay, good, because that feels right.
Yeah. Because I'm a 4323 and I'm a 1/8.
Beautiful.
I'm a 3955. I'm a 38. I'm a 60, 14. I have a lot of individuality in my design. Um, so you think about it.
And a lovely voice, so
Oh,
thank you.
well, thank you. It's all for you, right? See, that's the thing. The individual in the context of the circuit group is about empowering other people. It's funny how integration is even considered sort of a part of it in some way, because the knowing circuit, when it's really operating at its most exalted state, can be really selfless and concerned with the empowerment of other people. Come across with great humility, and um, its primary emphasis is really on contributing things so that the collective whole may benefit from that unique person's contribution. Um, my personality sun is the 8th gate, so here I am contributing my unique insights, perspectives on the human design system, that you may all be more empowered and know how to live your design with greater harmony and sense of correctness. It's the sacral center. So moving from the root up into the sacral brings the availability, bring order, and release resources for empowerment. The 14th gate is traditionally associated with wealth, money, resources, but if you actually look at it in real people, it's power. It's the power to work, and the power to work in such a way that brings about unique creative direction in the world. I've seen quite a few uh, athletes who are 14-2s or 214s, however you want to say it. And it's their inner resource that is sort of transformed through their productive capacity to work into money that then empowers their unique individual creative direction in the world. You know, um, Yeah, read the lines of the 14 for a better understanding. First one you'll see, the first line is money isn't everything. And in the third line, you'll see it's all about service. Okay. And in the sixth line, you'll see it's all about humility. So it really is about understanding that, money isn't everything, and yet being of service to other people with a sense of humility can bring wealth and power and influence into one's life. And then it's again all about how those resources are utilized to empower, first and foremost one's unique individual direction, but ultimately the unique individual direction of other people. Sort of like you a philanthropic approach. So the G center, again, moving from the root sacral G, represents our unique individual direction and creativity. So the second gate, the receptive gate of direction in the now. The first gate is the gate of the creative, your creative potential. Okay. And again, it sort of runs through the center. So our unique individual direction and how we express our creativity is not at all necessarily concerned with a plan. That's the job of the collective, or how things were done in the past in a cyclical nature. It's about how to do things uniquely and how that unique creative expression is expressed in the world. I think also another good example of 1/8 is Andy Warhol. Almost certain he was a 1/8. Okay, very famous individual artist. Quite a few people who I've seen with the 1/8 in their design who have made unique creative contributions to society that have this sort of mutative impact. And it's always going to come across as sort of new and inspiring and alternative, right? Standalone. A lot of famous singers with the 1/8. Okay. And then, of course, once you bring it to the throat, what we have is the ability to contribute, explain. The 8th gate contributes, the 23rd gate explains, the 12th gate articulates, and the 20th gate contemplates. And it's all happening in the now moment. Okay? It's how the individual is able to make its mark in the world through communication, is its ability to explain and contribute things or articulate in the now moment what it either intuits or is emotionally open to discuss or share with other people. Of course, the head center brings the pressure to know the mysteries, to think and receive inspiration. And that inspiration, again, is always going to come across as potentially slightly freakish because the ajna, with its conceptual ability to rationalize and have insightful, unique ways of processing information, is going to be very difficult to compare against what the collective expectations would be. Okay, so it's unique. Again, Rahu was a 4323 and he was a 61st gate. So he had this sort of unique initiation experience with the voice, planted all this inner truth information into his head, and then he spent decades of his life explaining his unique perspectives on what he had received, okay, to the collective. And of course, that communication capacity that he had, think about it as being pretty much vital to being able to establish what it is that we have today in terms of an information base on the human design system, was his ability to insightfully explain what he knew about it. And of course, it being unconscious for him, he would always say that he had all this stuff in his head, but it required his students to sort of pull it out of him. Because it's like, and again, you can start to think of this too. Okay, you can add this to the mix now. Think about what it's like to have a lot of individuality in your design, but it be all unconscious. Okay, to have these sort of mutative perspectives and maybe these moods and these antisocial tendencies that are in your design, but they're operating at an unconscious level and you don't even identify with them, or vice versa. We have someone like George Lucas, who is our example for today, who is a conscious 4323, someone who identifies with being as a unique, inspirational individual. He's here to explain and mutate the collective with his perspectives and ways of knowing how he would like to do things. And then finishing up with the other two awareness centers, the spleen, which is the intuition to take risks and know what to do or say in the now moment. Again, very acoustic. It can be extremely clear. As we know, with the spleen, it's like a gentle intuitive clarity. It comes in the now moment and then it's gone. It's the polar opposite to no truth in the now with the solar plexus. It's like absolute truth in the now with the spleen. And if you have splenic inner authority, like if you're a projector or a manifester with pure splenic inner authority, practicing listening to your bodily intuition, the gentle voice within, is very important for you to become attuned with your own unique inner authority process and how you make decisions and how you navigate life and death situations and survival situations, etc. I also say too, just as you know, if you're emotional, so if you're 39, 55, 22, 12, it's really important not to be spontaneous if you have an undefined or open spleen, okay? Because your existential awareness process is always going to be sort of dominated by or overshadowed by your emotional state, okay? And it's for you personally as an individual to yield to that emotional state so that you can develop depth over time, which again is the advantage of being emotionally defined, is that you can be extremely deep and have this multi-dimensional perspective on things, whereas people who are splenic, they basically make up their mind about things within like 0.43 of a second, and that's it, done. You know, they make their decision about you, whether or not they like you or not, whether or not they want to be around you or not in the now moment, and that's their correct truth, and it sticks. You know, it may shift in the future, but usually it's like a yes or no, and it's sort of somewhat permanent. Whereas with someone who's emotional, you know, you can take the more sort of empathetic approach and um, get to really know someone by exploring the depths of their nature through interacting with them at a social level. Okay, and sort of finishes off the centers here of the solar plexus, which is the moodiness to be open to social interaction or not, with passion. Okay, abundance, spirit, be a tease, you know, to provoke the spirit of others. Again, if you're 3955, part of the exercise in getting to know whether or not other people are a correct fit for you is to kind of like tease them a little bit, to provoke them, you know. And if you provoke someone, if you tease them, if you kind of try to tickle their spirit a little bit and they laugh in response, then you know, okay, maybe that person is good for me, you know. But if they're totally turned off by you, then you know, okay, probably shouldn't interact with that person socially. It might lead to some awkward, potentially angry backlash. Again, just to quickly go through all the channels. Of course, you guys could always come back and review these. The 360, which is the channel of mutation, sort of this pure creative energy, which can feel stuck and restrained when faced with limitation. You know, it's like let's say you're driving a delivery van and you got to deliver this parcel to the house, and you drive up the driveway and it's muddy and your van gets stuck. And you're like, damn it, you know? And you're faced with that limitation of, oh, now the van is stuck. It'll never become unstuck, and you get all frustrated, and you get all depressed, and you get all worried. Now you're melancholic. Yeah, you're feeling restless. The van's never going to become unstuck. It's never going to become unstuck. Then all of a sudden, someone comes by and tows your van out, and now your van's out. Ah, release. Thank God. Okay. And that sort of elation, that feeling of becoming unstuck, is really when this pure creative energy can be at its sort of peak. And you go from feeling unstuck to being released and feeling empowered to create. That's really when the circle can kick in and feel really productive in its endeavors. I have a good friend who's a 360, and she is extremely artistic, and she's artistic with physical things. She does like epoxy, uh, artwork and, very open design, but a 360 generator. And for her, it's just this like pure creative process with no real predictive element to it. She really doesn't know what she's going to do before she starts doing it, but when she is engaged with it, um, she feels so empowered, and her work is incredibly empowering and actually quite remarkable what she does with her energy. Very productive, very powerful. Okay. The 14-2, and as we see being designed, it's like channel of the beat. One of those channels where it's like, what the hell do you mean channel of the beat, Rob? What the heck does that mean? Well, it's sort of like marching to the beat of your own drum. Okay, doing work that you love to do with a direction. Remember the other two channels that flank the 14-2, the 29-46 and the 5-15, all about, okay, let's persevere and hope that we're going to be in the right place at the right time in order to sort of get through the shared collective experience, or the 5-15 with its ability to repeat patterns in an extreme fixed manner, all again to serve the collective. Well, the individual is not really interested in serving the collective or being engaged in some abstract, experience with people that it doesn't even know. Its primary focus is on empowering its own unique direction with a sort of fixation and potential for certainty, where you're certain about the direction that you're going in and you're really capable and willing to work for it. Okay. Bring tremendous satisfaction and a tremendous ability to be materially successful when you're aligned with work that's correct for you and work that you love to do. 1-8, channel of inspiration, the creative role model, be seen as a mutative and empowering impact. Okay, can have a mutative and empowering impact through the demonstration of one's unique creative contributions. Okay, 1-8, creativity is where creativity and contribution blend together, and you have the unique individual who stands up and represents themselves in a way that can be very empowering for others as an example. 61-24, channel of awareness, design of a thinker. This is the pressure to know the unknowable. Inspiration comes in the now moment, and returning thoughts are rationalized. And eventually passed on through the ajna down to the 43-23, which is a channel of structuring, which I've highlighted here because, like the 34-20, which we saw in integration, and the 40-37, which we saw in the tribal ego circuitry, the 43-23 is what's called an opposition in the wheel. So the 43 is over here in Scorpio, the 23 is over here in Taurus, and they actually form a channel. So if someone's sun is in the 43, their earth will be in the 23 and vice versa. Or if their nodes are in either of those positions, what happens is you get a channel definition, so you get life force definition. Therefore, it's very common. And again, if you think about it, it's like it's programmed within us to have the ability to be a unique, independent thinker, okay, en masse. You'll see a lot of 43-23s out there when you're doing charts, and most of them will be, again, like I said, someone who has it in their incarnation cross or somewhere in their nodes. It's usually less common to see a 43-23 outside of those areas. Okay. And again, you can think of it as unique insights explained as structuring. It's precisely what I do when I speak to you guys, is I'm explaining my unique insights in such a way that, carries this continuity, carries this rhythm, carries this beat to it from one thing to the next. And that's all my mind and my identity communicating what I know to you so that you may be empowered. And again, what you'll see with 43-23s is they can come across as very chatty individuals, especially if it's conscious. Oh my gosh. I know quite a few 43-23s that where it's black, and they just speak what's on their mind, almost to a point where it's kind of like, you kind of want to encourage them to like restrain themselves, because again, it's like the freak component to the 43-23, I would say, is even more sort of common than the genius component, right? Genius to freak, where it's 4323s can just say things that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. Uh, but to them it does, right? Maybe to them it makes sense, and maybe to them it resonates at a deep inner level. But in terms of being able to get a point across to other people, it's not a guarantee that the 43 is going to be able to do that first shot. Okay. 3955, channel of emoting, design of moodiness. You can see as a melancholic emotional energy that moves from sadness to happiness with a provocative spirit. Again, 3955, being one myself, I can speak to this. When I'm in a really good mood, I can light up a room. When I'm in a really bad room, I can turn the lights out real quick, real fast. And it's something that I've had to come to terms with and claim as part of my nature and take responsibility for, especially as given that it's my inner authority process. And like I said before, 3955s, 1222s has a lot to do with interacting with and being social with other individuals. So if you're not in the mood to be social and you carry that energy, yield to it, okay? And experiment with withholding your words, especially if you're an emotional person when you're in a bad mood, because you may regret what comes out of your mouth in the future, especially if it's having to do with something in the existential moment that you've never had to deal with before. Like someone asks you to do something and you respond in a negative way without having given yourself some time to actually consider what they really meant. Okay. Again, time, the ability to find clarity over that time is so critical for people who are emotional. So the 2212, channel of openness or not, sign of the social being or not, social, antisocial, is the openness to socialize or not. That can be impactful in an empowering or disempowering way. Okay. Music, speaking, articulation, public speakers, doctors, people with good bedside manners, lecturers, creatives, poets, you name it. Those who express their emotions and impact other people at an emotional level will often have components of the 1222. And in fact, if we look over at George Lucas' design, he's got the 22, right? So he's got the aware, individual, unique perspectives in the 12. So what does he do? He can really have an impact on other people's emotions through his unique individual creative expressions. Okay, and of course, anybody who's ever seen a Star Wars film, boy oh boy, do those films ever touch us at an emotional level. Okay. 3828, channel of struggle, design of stubbornness. Again, the energy to fight and take risks in order to find purpose, unique to the individual, be a very self-preserving opposition. And again, the 38 will oppose by default. Very difficult to convert 38 into your collective tribal endeavor. They really have to feel that, okay, this is correct for me, that this is a fight that I want to fight with, or for. It's a real purpose that's worth my energy, it's worth my time, it's worth my focus. And often you'll see, if you look at the 38th gate, 5th line is gate of alienation. This is where individuals can be totally alienated, often in their own battle, struggling for purpose. Okay. And then lastly, the 5720, channel of the brainwave, design of penetrating awareness, the intuitive, in the now moment awareness to do or say what is healthy for the individual. Okay. This is, again, an outlet for the awareness to speak. And if you note, all three awareness centers have connection to the throat in the individual knowing circuit. So our communication styles as individuals can either come across as analytical, okay? They can come across as intuitive, and they can come across as emotional. And sometimes you may have someone with a combination of all three. I don't think I can recall ever seeing someone with like a 43-23, 57-20, and a 12-22, where their communication style is sort of being represented by all three pathways. But again, just considering individuality as an entity, get this pressurized intuitive communication style, or a pressurized emotional communication style, or a pressurized analytical communication style. And it's all unique in the moment, new, unexpected, and ideally empowering. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to keep going here and move into the example with George Lucas. So George Lucas was born on May 14th, 1944, and this is accurate birth time that I have his chart up on the screen with, in Modesto, California. He's a visionary filmmaker and entrepreneur renowned for his groundbreaking contributions to the entertainment industry. His journey began as a passionate student of cinematography and film production at the University of Southern California, where he showcased his unique thinking and innovative approach to storytelling. Unique thinking, innovative approach to storytelling is 61-24, 43-23, 56. Remember, when we covered the collective sensing, 56 is the gate of stimulation, gate of storytelling. Okay. Lucas's dedication to his craft was evident early in his career, particularly in his desire, 4130, desire, to push the boundaries of what was technically and artistically possible in film. This dedication, and he's actually on what's called the Cross of Dedication. George Lucas is a 6'2", role model hermit, Cross of Dedication. Like I said before, you'll often see 43-23s as oppositions or as incarnation crosses, and that's just the case. So he's 43-23, 6 lines, Sun Earth, conscious level. So you can think of his personality, radiance, and grounding, and a lot to do with his purpose as his unique individual capacity to explain and structure and to really condition the mental environment. Okay, which we'll get to near the end. Bring that into life for you can see it. So this dedication led to the creation of Star Wars in 1977, a monumental achievement that forever changed the landscape of science fiction and popular culture. The success of Star Wars was not just due to its compelling story and characters, but also to Lucas's breakthrough insights into the use of special effects, sound, and editing, which revolutionized the film industry. His individual creative communication style is characterized by a blend of mythic storytelling, cutting-edge technology, and a deep understanding of human emotions and archetypes. Lucas's ability to communicate complex ideas through the medium of film is unmatched, making his stories universally relatable and timeless in many ways. Lucas's dedication extended beyond filmmaking into the realm of business and technology. He founded Lucasfilm, Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, Skywalker Sound, companies that have become synonymous with innovation in film production, special effects, and audio. Okay, so he created, here's a highly individual mind who created an audio production company. Remember what I said about the acoustic realm and how individuals live and have a deep sensitivity to acoustics. His forward-thinking approach ensured that these companies remained at the forefront of technological advancements in the industry. George Lucas's legacy is not only in his iconic films and characters, but also in his unwavering commitment to innovation, creativity, and storytelling. His work continues to inspire new generations of filmmakers and audiences around the world, which is a great segue to what I wanted to say a few moments ago. Remember, 70% of humanity has an undefined head center. I think it's 70%. A lot. Most people look at your own design. Look at your family members' designs. You'll see that most of them have an undefined or open head center. And if they don't, okay, if they have it defined, such as the case with George, they would be the minority. And it's for you to recognize that people with definition between the head center, the oxygen, and especially if it makes it down to the throat, are going to have a tremendous impact on, can potentially have a tremendous impact on the mental environment and how other people receive inspiration. Okay, so think of all of the open head centers in the world who have received inspiration through George Lucas's unique individual contributions. The number is numbering in the billions, right? Many, a lot, right? And 6'2", transpersonal. So here's someone with a transpersonal profile who's had a tremendous impact on the mental environment through inspiring other people with his unique perspectives, skills, storytelling, a leadership style, um, desire to push the boundaries, okay, and touch and evoke emotions within other people. Okay. Yeah, I think that's basically all I had to say with regards to George. Just again another great example of an individual, expressing their life force and how the force can be seen in the real world, right? Use the force. So George, you can think George Lucas's life force had a lot to do with empowering and sharing with the collective his unique perspectives. All right, so I think that's pretty good timing. What are we at here? 40. I expected this to take a bit longer, so I'm going for an hour and 40 minutes, give or take. Just seeing how many channels there are. Yeah, individuality, a tremendously important life force as it gives the individual the opportunity to make a difference in the world. And it's so important for individuals to be able to make a difference in the world, or otherwise the world would stagnate. And we wouldn't have anything new, and we wouldn't have any sort of creative inspiration or alternative perspective outside of collective interpretation and tribal tradition. Okay. And in many ways, it's the contribution of the individual that helps to seed new ways of thinking and new ways of understanding and new patterns of tradition within all other areas of the design. Okay, but it doesn't come without its difficulties. Um, you know, rejection, fear, having to be socially adept. It's like if you're going to make a unique individual contribution that sticks, you better have social skills, right? If you have zero social skills and you're expecting that your unique individual abilities are going to stick, I would recommend that you take some time to work on that, or to really look at your design and see where there may be some areas for growth, because you got the individual, that's how it's done. It's passed on from one individual to the next, one person at a time, and it's spoken, right? It's auditory, it's audio, it's hearing somebody's voice and being moved and inspired by their voice and their explanations. Maybe their singing, or their poetry. That's how the individual can make an impact. And it's funny because ultimately, at the end of the day, too, in most circumstances, the individual really does long for and has a passion for being able to make a contribution that does affect the collective, that does affect the tribe. It's like this deep passion from within that is seeking to extend its influence out into the world, and not necessarily just be cooped up in a box only for that individual to experience for themselves. Because remember, it's very different from the integration channel or even certain components of the centering circuit. knowing is all about empowerment, and empowerment is something that comes as a result of social interaction and speaking and representing yourself authentically and not being afraid to be different. And yeah, sometimes having a combative spirit can help, so that you have that energy again to stand up for yourself and to authentically represent yourself as a unique individual in social interaction. All right. So, as always, I'm open to having a look at some charts.
Yeah, yeah. I've been waiting on this one. I was like, this is definitely the story of my life.
Yeah. The got Ori here. Yeah, definitely the story of your life. When you look at it, a couple of things that stand out. First and foremost, just sort of going through the sequence, is the 3955 channel of emoting, sign of moodiness. It's your inner authority channel, right?
Mhm.
So, sort of being a passionate, at times potentially provocative individual is um, very much so a part of your experience, I would imagine. And it's always going to come across in sort of an unusual capacity. And you know, the 3955, because I have this channel as well, and it's funny because I have it like the other way around, where I have the 39 conscious and the 55 unconscious. So I know
Mhm.
this trip. Uh, it can provoke other people when it refuses to give an answer or refuses to participate in a social interaction, or sort of comes out of left field and does something or says something with this like moody emotional overtone that can elicit a sense of distrust from other people, which is what you'll see with the 55.2. um, the exaltation in this energy is having an emotional stability in your nature and some type of relating talent that allows people to trust you as being sort of a mentor, right? Or to being like a force of empowerment. Um, and the distrust and sort of the uncertainty that people can have about you and your nature comes when you're unable to clearly express your own moods, which can be difficult because it's you don't have the 1222, just like myself. So it can be kind of like a mood and an emotion that runs deep within you, but doesn't necessarily get to express. And that's the job of the 1222. Um, one of the big things for me when I first learned about my design, again, we have a similar sort of construct here where it's cut off from the throat, is, feeling your emotions and not necessarily being able to actually express how you feel is okay. But
Mhm.
it's like really for you to tune into your emotional state as an indicator for whether or not you're open to engage with other individuals socially or not, uh, again, having the sort of the humility and restraint to pull back when you're not in the mood will probably save you a lot of frustration, you know um,
Mhm.
and vice versa. If you're really in the mood and you feel lit up and you feel really passionate and you feel like, yeah, today's my day to shine as an individual, you know to go for it, to not let fear, okay, or lack of sense of self-worth, or you know, oh, I don't think, well, I know you have a defined head center, so it's not necessarily the case here. Um, yeah, but to trust the spirit of things and so that other people trust your spirit. Um,
Yeah.
really
So to
big part of
trust
your
myself,
nature.
I was saying so to just trust myself more, uh, on a deeper level.
Yeah, and to trust like to trust your spirit and to trust
Mm,
what you're passionate in. If you
mm,
have a passion for something and day after day after day it brings you happiness and it's that thing that helps you to pull you out of sadness, you know, that's the thing for you. That's the thing that you're here to sort of And again, if we now sort of extend out into other areas of your design, you can see you do have a lot of individuality, and it's individuality that's going to be expressed in the context of your sort of your purpose and how it shows up in your environment, right? So, and that's coming through the 4323. So you're kind of a textbook example of what I was saying earlier, where often you'll see people with the 4323 either as Sun Earth or in their nodal definition because it's an opposition, you know. So it's like you can almost say that you're unique. The work that really lights you up is something you're passionate about and have the ability to explain efficiently.
Wow.
And if it's not something that lights you up and that you're passionate about, likely you're going to feel frustrated trying to dedicate your energy to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
That's yeah. Whew. You definitely hitting the points.
yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, that's oh my God, that's so true. And it's hard for me to even, like you said, like it's hard for me to even initiate if it's not aligned with what I really want to do. Like I become very stubborn.
Hmm.
Like people be like, oh, you should, get a job and work, or you should do this. And my instinct is immediately, no,
Yep.
no.
Yeah. That's right. Stubbornness. Stubbornness is a perfect keynote for individuality. Actually, Channel of Struggle is a design of stubbornness, right? 3828. The opposition or sorry, the mirror to the 3955. See, the challenge, emotions are energized. A lot of power here, a lot of energy here. So it's like you can be very provocative if you stubbornly refuse to dedicate your energy to things, right? Because it comes with this emotional wave. And that's not something you can change or shut off or repress, and nor is it something that I would encourage you to repress. And in many ways, it's something that people are going to see projected out from within you, right? You have a second line emotional system. Uh, People, and it's just like myself, I can relate to this, is people are always going to see your emotions and your spirit and your passion for things or lack thereof more clearly than you actually may see them yourself. Um, people are gonna see you as a moody individual, even when you would rather that they not. uh, it's hard to hide from that.
Right.
But, yeah, man, when you're lit up and you're passionate about the work that you do, and it's something that you can really engage your mind in, likelihood of your satisfaction is quite high. Um, and again, for you as a 5-1, it is so imperative as a transpersonal person that you develop social skills.
Mm,
It's just the way it is, and that can literally come through the context of a course, maybe something like Toastmasters. Have you heard of Toastmasters? It's like a public speaking program.
mm-mm.
Um,
This is my
Even
first time
just
here.
yeah, there's a lot of different self development. Individuals can benefit greatly from self development programs that speak to you and that you really resonate with, so that you can develop a confidence. Because remember, individuality is always kind of freakish, and to be able to stand up and have confidence in what you know and to be able to communicate that effectively to the collective, you have to develop your ability to have confidence in your speaking and confidence in your social skills. um, Not something that happens overnight. It can help a lot, that you don't just become frustrated and bitter, antisocial.
Hmm. I'm gonna definitely take that note because I've been such a like throughout my childhood, I've been such a very quiet individual
Mhm.
um, to myself. Actually, before second grade or before third grade, I was very hyper. I was very reactive, and I remember in third grade when I transitioned. I think it was like it was like a kid that was like one day told me he was like, "You so weird." Then one day I just like switched and became very like unsocial into myself. And I remember going through that process of being like, why I'm so different, why people don't understand me, da 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 da. And like that used to be a frustrating time, but I, it's just crazy like how everything's come together, and now learning human design just answer my inner child question like why I'm so different. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, being called like different, weird as a kid, and if you have a lot of individuality, can
Mhm.
be really disempowering. And I think it's really amazing that you're still really, you're still quite young, and you can take this knowledge now and you can take this information and you can begin to apply it, and just know that it's correct for you to be unique, and to stand out from the crowd and to
Mhm.
speak what's on your mind, especially when you're in the mood and you're certain. Because there's nothing more powerful than a certain individual who actually is certain and knows what they're talking about. That's how we have an effect on the collective. And great. Thank you for sharing. That's awesome. Mhm. Okay, so you have gates in the
Yeah.
circuit group. No channels, but you do have component gates. And if we kind of take a bottom up approach, with the 3839, like I said, you can kind of come across at times as sort of a very provocative, stubborn individual, because there's a unique knowing in you that is not to be tampered with, right? And that's sort of the role of that energy, is to be able to defend your unique individual perspectives and your unique individual knowing, and to be empowered by doing work that lights you up. And I would say, in many ways, given the fact that the 14 and the 43 are Pluto and even Uranus in the 38, these are like
Yeah. I was
long-term themes.
okay. I was like wondering how that would play out in with having it in my Pluto. Oh.
Yeah. Well, Pluto represents like truth, transformation, psychology, long-term developmental life theme, and essentially like the deepest truth for the individual. And I think it's
Mm.
interesting. Again, I know you were born in the 90s because,
Yeah.
around the 90s, because that's when Pluto was in Scorpio. Um,
Right.
so sort of like you can interpret it as like one of your deepest truths is to find work that you love to do as an individual that really lights you up,
Mhm.
that
Right. Yeah.
that's creative in nature, um,
Yeah.
and then to have like a sort of a provocative, stubborn spirit. And again, this is what I'm doing no matter what. Don't try to change me. Don't try to alter me. And I know you're very tribal, so
Yeah.
you're very
Exactly.
tribal collective, and yet you have these aspects of individuality. So in many ways, you can kind of think of it as how um, you bring like a unique knowing and perspective to the tribe. That's really
Okay.
kind of like a creative flair to your community, um,
Right. Okay.
that can help to
Makes
inspire
sense.
innovation within that tribal
Mhm.
construct.
Cool. Mhm.
And of
Okay.
course, being
Yeah.
very attuned to sound, right? Like acoustic. Have you have a very
Yeah, because
acoustic
I
mind?
make music as well. Like I sing, that's like always been my biggest just natural thing. Yeah,
Amazing.
cool. And I'm very sensitive to sound also, like a yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. I get it now.
Very much so. Big part of your design energy is that 24, right? 24.
Mhm.
Sort of like your grounded, deepest truth is to be like having a very acoustic mind.
Mm. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you for explaining.
You're welcome. So are you a 6-2 manifester?
Yes.
Cross of uncertainty,
Yep.
like myself?
Yeah.
We're like each other's upside down birthdays, so you're on the other side of the wheel.
Oh, so like the polarity, the opposition.
Yep. I was born in May. You're born in November.
Mm.
Both sixth
Mhm.
line. So again, we have a splenic manifester, strategy to inform. If we isolate, I'd say too, before we even isolate the knowing and have a look at your 1-8, just to see the sort of the pathway in terms of the circuitry. You'd have the 28, which brings us awareness for purpose. So it's like this intuitive instinct to have a purpose that has a lot to do with either supporting or transmitting other people with information. And then certain ways, like we covered last week with the centering circuit, having sort of a competitive, innocent spirit in that pursuit. I'd be kind of interested to know if you're like into sales or marketing, or do you transmit your unique creative contributions to the collective in any way?
Um, well, I guess like as far as the collective would go, I've been studying astrology for about 10 years, and I am a part of a few groups. We all collaborate together to like help each other learn, and we just kind of like pass along the information and knowledge that we've learned. I often pass along a lot of my like my own personal research that I've done. Um, and I read charts, like the natal charts for people, and I'm currently doing work in the astrology realm, but it's like a different kind of work now that I've been called towards. So I plan on giving that to the collective as well, and it seems to be taken pretty well, at least um, so far, anyways.
Mhm.
But that's always like one of my biggest fears is feeling stupid, and then I don't share. So
Mm.
it's really been, but like how you said, transmitting information, that has been like huge for me throughout my entire life. I'm always like wanting to share what I know with somebody, or always wanting to exchange information in some kind of form or fashion.
Right. And as a manifester, to have impact, right, and to be able to empower other people with the information that you share, I'd imagine that sort of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I was really unaware of it. I guess like how I have affected people my entire life, and just up until recently, I've really begun to see like how much of an impact I have on people. And I say that in a way as like I'll be with my friends, or people will come in and out of my life, and I'm just who I am. Like I don't judge people. I don't like hold them to anything. So I allow people to come and go as they need to through life. And then I've gotten a lot of feedback. I'll get people that message me all the time telling me how grateful they are for me and how much I've helped them and this and that. And I'm just like, well, how? I've been like just very unaware, I guess, of myself and how I've affected other people. So it's been nice to hear, but at the same time, it's almost like detached from me in a way, because I don't see myself that way. So it's hard for me to like see how other people see me in that way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So it's been empowering lately, to be, I guess, recognized for what I'm doing, even though like what I'm doing is just being myself.
Awesome. No, I would say I would add to the first point you meant, or you mentioned. You're a 6-2, so the first 30 years trial and error, all lower trigram. You're actually operating as a 3-2, 3-2, and I can relate to your incarnation cross because we're on the same cross, just alternate polarity or expression or variation, we have no idea really what's going on. We're bumping into people, we're being called to things, your second line, so you're being called to contribute, but we don't really start to figure ourselves out until that middle phase, and even sort of halfway through the middle phase when we're beginning to prepare to come out into the world and to express ourselves as role models, right? So I would say it's sort of natural to your own process to be someone who is sort of seen and called to contribute, and yet that contributive process, especially in the early years, would have most certainly been filled with sort of trial and error, right? And sort of being uncertain as to whether or not it's the correct time to say something or not, or transmit information or not. And maybe the saving grace or the helpful exercise is to learn more about your splenic intuition and instinct and the splenic authority and how that functions, right? Because that existential awareness to willfully express a unique contribution to another person is really what's probably going to bring you a sense of that peace, and being able to inspire other people and empower other people with your creative ideas, you know. um and
Yeah,
maybe,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, please go ahead, you can share.
Yeah, I completely agree. And a lot of it, like a lot of this knowing that I'm being like when I'm called to something, it comes from a place like of knowing. And it's not something I can explain to other people in words most of the time. It's just kind of like, oh, there's that feeling deep that like I'm being pinged, and I just follow it and I go. And like, that's basically how I've been going about life over the last few years, is just kind of following that ping. I think it probably comes from my splenic, but I've just allowed it to show up more in my life, and I've learned to just follow it more. And it's been pretty cool where it's led me so far. So and then here I am collaborating with so many different people. So I think it's doing what it's meant to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The transpersonal, right? And again, that's probably only going to increase and become more and more of a theme for you the sort of older and more mature you become. And remember, as a six line personality, the ultimate sort of contribution you're here to make is really something that comes in our later years. Believe it or not, it's really after 50 where the sixth line and its capacity to truly demonstrate and to truly embody what it is that it's here to contribute becomes most capable and most authentically expressed and represented in you. So it's a long-term developmental process that you're engaged in. And yeah, you're
I think
definitely
I'm on
here
the
to,
roof right now.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I was reading I'm on the roof, and then I'm actually in the hermit phase, which makes complete sense for me because
Mhm.
I've noticed like a shift in how social I was and how social I want to be now, and I don't want to be social, so I hermit myself up, and this year and this next coming year has been mainly for deep study, so that makes sense.
Yeah. And you're not really a social person. The
No,
1222, you don't have that channel of the social being. 1222s can be like social butterflies, they go from one interaction to the next, and that's where they bring their, they find their peace. Yeah, it makes sense for you to hermit up and to continue to study and fill your mind with uh, inspirational ideas that you can ultimately transmit to others to help to initiate them and help them to be centered in um, their own process. Again, as a six line being, interactions with other people is so sort of crucial um, to the purpose that we're here to fulfill. Yeah. Yeah, and again, being a 14th son, doing work that you love to do, and work that brings a mutation and a sense of purpose and empowerment to others through what it is that you contribute. You mentioned that you really enjoy studying astrology and reading the charts. Well, or even now with human design, you're starting to. I don't know how much experience you have with human design, but again, being able to empower other people with a sense of purpose and mutate them as your work or what it is that you creatively contribute. Maybe that's something that you'll definitely resonate to, at least at an individual level. And yeah.
I don't have much knowledge of HD. I've been immersed into studying it this last week since I've joined the server. I've just learned more and more. And my problem with astrology was I've learned so many various systems, so many various ways of doing the charts because there's so many different kinds. So going between Western and Vedic, and now I'm going into something completely different that does just light me up. So I'm going towards that. So that was, I would say, mainly my problem throughout the last, few years was figuring out which part of astrology I wanted to be a part of, because I was a part of it all. I knew a lot of it, but I never wanted to, I guess, there's like a niche, I would say, that I was looking for, that I wanted to be in. And I think the galactic astrology is what really drew me in because it's more of a cosmic level. So that's where my niche is. So I would read Western charts, and then I'd read Vedic charts, and then I would do like draconic charts and progressions and solar returns and like all these charts. But none of it really, after a while, it stopped bringing me so much joy. And I started to get bombarded from people about doing readings without people understanding that, it's an energy exchange and it drains me. So I stopped doing all of that and kind of just kept studying instead of doing that. So yeah, that was my problem, was just like figuring out, because astrology is so vast, like all these subjects are so vast. So it's like, it was just narrowing it down to one thing that I really wanted to do, but I wanted to know everything about it first before I was able to narrow it down. So that's been kind of my dilemma. And then finally, just recently, and then I found what I wanted to do as far as that goes. And then I was shared the gene keys and the hologenetics, and it blew my mind because it literally told me what my life purpose was. And it's what I'm doing right now with this galactic astrology and kind of like the 7 rays and the 7 root races and like all this stuff. So I was just like completely mind blown. So now I at least know I'm going in the right direction of where I'm being called, and I'm listening to the right thing. So I feel a lot better about that part of my life now, thanks to HD. So this is where it led me.
Incredible. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for listening.
I think you're destined to be a real force of empowerment. Remember, having an undefined head, undefined ajna, like an intellectual mind, and can be really a real sponge to soak in the information. And it's to trust that when you ultimately do speak on topics, you're speaking from your identity, right? And when you speak in a way that initiates people for how you transmit the information. Being certain about what you say before you say it is probably going to be more of like a not self tendency as well. So just keep that in mind, to like trust your speaking, even though you may not be able to plan for what you say before you say it. I come up.
Yeah, that's spot on.
Okay.
I doubt myself too much instead of just going with it.
Yeah. Doubt may engender regret, even in the most ideal circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
You're here to experience communion with other individuals. And at one level, you have an awareness of patterns within the collective that ensures the correct timing of when it's right for you to contribute or not, you know. There will always be this sort of overhanging sense of doubt as to whether or not it's the right time to express what you know or not. But remember, this process is not your inner authority. Your inner authority is your spleen. Your spleen will handle the decision making as to when it's the right time for you to transmit and initiate your unique creative expressions to other, even if your mind may be filled with doubt and uncertainty.
Yeah, I've learned that I just try to listen to my thoughts now. It's been a good practice for me over this last year. Just kind of observing my thoughts and letting them pass as they come. Because it used to fill me with a lot of doubt about a lot of things. So in the more that I've just let these thoughts come and go and have viewed them and picked through them, I'm able to be more confident, I guess.
Yeah. And certain.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been this huge shift in me this year, and I'm not sure what it is. I feel very spicy than what I normally do, as far as making myself heard, and being more true to myself, even with the people around me, and not compromising against what I need to compromise against, because I compromise too much. So that's kind of something I've been working on too, is not leaving myself behind and staying true to my authentic self. So it's been quite a time.
Mm. And, too, with being a 6, the first 30 can have, first 30 being themes of trial and error. The 8th gate, 3rd line is about essentially associating with the wrong people. It's sort of important as you continue to mature into your role model characteristics to not let your past determine your future, and to sort of see the early life lessons and the trial and error, bonds made and broken, mistakes, dedication of your energy in a way that didn't actually bring you a sense of peace. All those old ways of being that were just fundamental to your learning process, not letting them sort of get the better of your confidence and your certainty as you grow and mature into a real role model. And that's a lot of the doubt sort of comes from that, with the 8th
I
gate.
can absolutely see that. Yeah, because like you said, the first 30 years of my life was definitely trial and error. Everything was always trial and error, but I never got down about the trial and error. I was always willing to learn through everything, because if you can't learn from your mistakes, then that's just an experience you have that you can later then reflect on. So I've always loved or enjoyed even learning through trial and error, because if this doesn't work, then something else will. At least this doesn't work and you can try something else. And a lot of people kind of get stuck in that process where if they fail at something, then they're kind of stuck in that, instead of just realizing, hey, this doesn't really work for me. There's another way. Let's try something else. So my entire first 30 years has always been done through that lens of trial and error. So that's super spot on. And as far as the wrong people, yes, that too. And I have gotten a lot more peace with holding boundaries and kind of being in this hermit phase and just kind of reflecting on the past 30 years and all my experiences and what it's brought me and where I'm going. And kind of like you said, I've forgiven myself. I don't hold myself to any shame anymore, from from things that have happened in the first part of my life, from those people. And I'm at a very good place with that right now. So it feels really good. I'm sure there's a lot more to come, because I have a lot more digging to do within myself with certain things, but it's a process as always for life.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I completely agree with you saying. I ramble a lot, so I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Please feel free to speak. You're a manifester. You're here to communicate,
I'm speaking without thinking about what I'm trying to say, basically. So I'm trying to put that in process too.
Yep. Yeah, self-imposed barriers. being selective with who you engage with. Yeah, having the instinct to willfully communicate things or not. A lot of it has a lot for you to do with what you have the willpower to engage with or not. So whether it be trial and error, or in this phase of your life, something more objective, the higher perspective. I don't think you can get much of a higher perspective than galactic astrology. sounds like a perfect fit for a 6.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing, and yeah, great chatting.
Thank you for going over it with me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Right. Who's still here? Is there anybody else here who would like to quickly go over?
I'm here.
Moksha, are you there?
I'm there. Oh, sorry. I'm disconnected. You can hear me better now, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on the cross of the individual, but I also, I got some stage time last week as well.
Well, I think it's important to look at yours because you've got the 5720. You have a channel in this.
Yeah.
And again, we talked about last week having like an intuition, potentially shocking events, and trusting your communication in the now moment, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense or may actually provoke conflict. That would be, I think, kind of a big thing.
Yeah.
Saying what you know is right in the moment, even if it may provoke conflict. Like I said, job of the individual to bring newness into the world, to bring a new perspective on things, comes with this ability to fight and to stand up for what you know is correct. And the 20 being the first line in Venus was going to come across as in the relating context, how you relate to people and what you say and in the now moment, especially in the context of your relationships, is going to carry a font of empowerment or not. And guidance, it's like health guidance. I don't know what you do for work, but be interested to know if you have a guidance kind of communication role in the context of your life somewhere. I would see that as being like a really big component of your energy.
Yeah, I do have that in my work, but in the I don't know. Let's see what happens forward. I'm picking up on some things, which has to do with that, right? Like guiding yoga or something like this is something that I have done a few times, and it is something that kind of lights me up. But the 48 is like, you're not ready.
The fear
And
and
it's
inadequacy.
okay. I'm good to take my time with it, But yeah, and I have had a lot of roles where I do end up guiding people through my speaking somehow, like it's an element, even though it's not the thing. That's kind of what comes through there.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting you mentioned yoga, and because the now, bringing people into the now moment.
Yeah, very much.
Okay. Well, again, thanks for sharing and trusting what you say in the now moment.
Yeah, thank you
that.
so much. Yeah. This has been awesome. I'm gonna miss these Wednesdays.
I'm glad you liked it. Well, we'll do something else. Might need a little bit of a break and just kind of recalibrate. And what I was thinking of actually doing is sort of asking, I'll put it out in the announcements, a couple of different topics that I had in mind, and whichever one gets the most amount of likes or whatever, we can go with that one.
Yeah. Is there something before you go? Is there something you can say about the cross of individualism? Because it's like one of those crosses that are it's so unspecific, you know, and which is totally fair.
Well, let's start with, I mean, you can break it down to its component parts, but just give me a sec. So from the book, from the Global Incarnation Index, 39.6 personality sun. So you would be in the quarter of civilization, purpose fulfilled through form, gate of obstruction, sort of paired with the writing cross of tension, evolves into the juxtaposition cross of provocation. And of course, you're there to express the transpersonal role and responsibility of what it is to be a provocative individual, which is to be a mutative force that shocks others with their intuitive knowing and staunch individualism, but are not easily influenced themselves. Remember what we said today about mutation and the role of the individual. The role of the individual is to bring something new into the lives of the tribe and into the perspective of the collective. I used the example before of a famous personality in Alan Watts, which probably has his.
Yeah, he's on the same cross there.
Here he is. I have him in my software. Cannot find. For some reason it's not pulling it up. But so there's an example of a role model whose provocative perspectives on that whole culture that he brought over to the States shocked and initiated a lot of people into a new level of awareness and knowing. And again, being in the quarter of civilization, purpose fulfilled through form, it's about helping to concretize new levels of knowing, whether it be writing a book or being someone who engages with music or public speaking. Like I said, I mentioned the 5720, to have sort of like a social impact in the way in which you communicate and express your unique perspectives in the now moment, and shock and initiate people. You know, so if you find yourself in a role or a responsibility where you can help to sort of shake things up and stir things up and elicit an emotional response from people, the 39 is tasked with doing, so that they feel more empowered, I would say you're probably on the right track.
Yeah, when I started with human design, I connected with with someone. He's not with us anymore, but he said some things to me, and when I started experimenting, I was like, oh, I'm gonna write him an email because I'm pissing people off now. Like, because I pulled back some of my behaviors, and it really stirred a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool.
It's like to be like a standout example of a unique force of knowing, and to continuously practice the art of communication and the art of intuitive communication. And always know that, yes, it may kind of tease people and kind of provoke them and it may shock them, but it may actually be the precise thing that they need to hear in the now moment for them to actually be safe, for them to actually be secure, and for them to feel healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I can recognize some instances of that for sure. Where it's like I can see that enabling someone. I have an example of a person I lived with. He was a chef at my work. We were working and living together, and in the kitchen at home, he couldn't just come in and take his pair of scissors. Like, he had to stand in the door and wait. And for me, this is like, come on, take your space, take your things. Because to be all mushy mushy would be, for me, to enable that. Like, it's okay to come and it's okay to take your space. You live here. You can come into whatever I'm doing and do what you need. Anyway, just something I thought about.
It can be as
Um,
mundane as that. Simple
yeah,
day-to-day
exactly.
experiences where you
Yeah.
kind of wake people up, shock them, provoke them, make them feel like, okay, it's safe to do what they're there to be doing in the now moment.
Yeah.
Shake them out of their complacency or out of their old patterns. Because remember, that's what the individual does, is it helps to shake people out of their old patterns by saying something new and saying something empowering and saying something thoughtful in the now moment. You could basically think too, like every time you speak as a 5720, you're expressing sort of the essence of your purpose. Every time you speak, every word that you share and every sound that you make, and how you communicate with other people, all of that energy, the sum total of all that energy, is represented in your cross.
Yeah, wow.
A lot of people think that our purpose is like something that we show up for next Tuesday, and they want to make sure that they're prepared to show up next Tuesday so they can fulfill their purpose on time. And it's not like that. It's like human design purpose is about like this living quantum that expresses itself over the course of our entire lives. And again, as a 6-2, is something that doesn't really actually flower until we're post-Chironian. So after 50. First 30 years for you is trial and error, and who you provoke, who you don't provoke, what other individuals you're partnering with and fighting alongside, struggling with. Then you get your roof time. 6-2s get their roof time, and then you get the call, and you get the call later in life in many ways to be a force of empowerment and individualism for other people. Even just talking about human design with people, where you're turning them on to the path of individualism. Find your unique way, find your unique purpose, find your unique design. Be a real force of empowerment in this sphere.
Awesome.
Okay.
I can listen to this all night.
Yeah.
So cool. Thank you, Ryan.
You're welcome. All right. Is anybody else still here? Quick Light, Nikki, Salamander, Chile. You guys here? Nikki, did you want me to talk a little bit about the 3955 electromagnetic?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi. My headphones work this time, so I can talk. Yes,
Okay.
can you please tell me about that? How that would make a
So
difference, or how should I interpret that compared to somebody having the whole panel?
you have the 39 and he has the 55.
Yes.
Is your root center defined?
Yes.
Okay.
It is
So,
not. And 39 is my design sun.
oh, so that's a very strong energy that you carry, and it's active. It's not dormant. And it's, the
Yes,
39 is the gate of the provocateur. So it's to provoke passion, to provoke spirit. It's to tease out a response. When you have it electromagnetically, maybe your partner with the 55 some days will feel kind of empty, and in a bad mood, you have a natural ability to tease their spirit and help them to sort of overcome a sense of sadness and bring the passion and the vitality back into the room. Curious to know if that's something you've ever experienced, sort of a back and forth with the sort of the mood and how moods shift when you're there versus when you're not there for him.
I think, well, ever since we started looking at human design, that's when I started looking at it, because we've always been an up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, and I didn't know why it was, but I'm just thinking maybe because of these emotional uh, waves, and they're not mine, they're his, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, so he would have the 59-6, which is the whole bonding and mating. So here you are committed in a relationship. So that's one thing. That's the tribal thing. But that channel isn't really wavy, the 59-6. The 39-55 is definitely wavy. It's like a spike wave. So it's this passionate, one day you guys feel really good. You feel very happy. There's passion and spirit in the room. And the next day it can be very dreary and sad and melancholic and upset and uncertain and provocative and melodramatic. And in many ways, it's not just his wave alone. You guys create that wave together through the electromagnetic connection. I think that's really what I was trying to say.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, it's something that actually happens when you guys are in each other's presence, is how I would interpret that. Like I have the whole channel, and my partner, she is totally open emotionally, so it's it's my responsibility and very obviously me when the mood in the room shifts, right? It's all on Ryan. And yet when you have a pairing or an electromagnetic, it's kind of a dance between both partners in how the
Yes.
emotions express.
Yeah, I this is like, it's been only like 3 months or 2.5 months since I really started delving into human design,
Mhm.
and there's just so much information.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like I'm trying to interpret my chart and his chart, and then how we live it. Do we live it? Um, and now obviously trying to follow authority. So yeah, it's just so new, and I don't understand all of it, but I'm trying. And really, the electromagnetic channels are things that I haven't really been able to understand how they would work. Like, I'm getting the hang of the individual channels and the individual gates, but how it works in a relationship, that's a little bit tougher for me to understand at this point.
Right. And it, you know, it requires study. There's technically like a pathway. So have you had like an individual reading, like a foundation reading, or worked with a partnership analysis analyst?
No, no,
Okay.
not yet.
So all of those kind of deeper nuances, especially with when you bring in somebody else and you combine two charts to examine all the different relationship dynamics, it can actually get like remarkably deep. Uh, and also at the same time be very practical, because it shows you how um, it shows you what each partner brings to the relationship and how those connections can actually create entirely new energies that are not present when it's just the two individuals by themselves.
Hmm.
And do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
like with the 39-55, when you guys are at a distance from each other, there's no moodiness there. There's no emoting there. There's no emotional waves there, technically, if you look at the chart. But when you bring yourselves together, it creates an entirely new chemistry as a channel, as a life force that would be experienced by both members.
Hmm.
I think maybe just if you sit with that for a little while and to like I said, human design shows us what we bring uniquely, and it can also show us what happens when two people come together and create entirely new energies that are otherwise not even present in our own unique individual energy. You can kind of begin to get a grasp of what that kind of level of analysis could provide for you.
Yeah, definitely. HD is definitely helping us to realize that, this is who we are. We've been we've been together for 30 years, so it's nothing new.
Right.
We're just trying to understand, and the up and downs are not a daily basis. Up and downs seem to be like periods in our life, like every 2-3 years or something. We get to a point where we can't stand each other, or
Right.
you know.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
we're trying to understand where both of us come from, and instead of having these big emotional fights and you know being closed off, we're trying to go to the same side and understand where we're coming from. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's been a challenge, but I think human design is kind of helping,
Yeah.
or it's helping me for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really special and unique when you have partners who are both interested in human design and willing to experiment even with the basics together. It's actually uncommon, more common where you have one partner that has an interest and a willingness to actually learn about it. So I just encourage you and applaud you both for to continue to experiment with it
Yeah,
as much as
thanks.
you can. And again, visiting IHDS website, if you want to in the future, you could look into potentially hiring someone to help you with a partnership analysis, because that would kind of be the next level in terms of like, okay, really wanting to extract the specific insights from it, so you both could
Yes,
benefit.
we thought about it, and we were discussing it, getting individual readings and a partnership reading.
Yeah.
But we decided to kind of put it off, maybe sometimes early next year, because by that time we'll be maybe around 6 months into it, and we have at least a basic understanding of the basics, and maybe we've had a little bit of time to experiment with things, and
Yeah.
then if we get a reading, then it will be easier to understand than going in there blind and
Yeah.
okay. What does it mean?
uh-huh. Yeah. Excellent. It's
So yeah, definitely next year we'll probably do it, and then yeah, meanwhile, I think I do have a little bit more time than he does to contribute to human design. So I'm kind of learning it a little bit faster pace than he is, but that's okay.
yep. Well, it's a slow burn, human
Yeah.
design. It's a slow journey, and pick up little insights along the way. And have you found these circuitry sessions to be helpful and helping you to
Yes,
understand?
very much. And some of the literature that I was able to find, it's kind of helping to reinforce what we have been talking, or you have been talking and presenting here. When I think I have my learning style is mostly from reading instead of listening.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember things that you talk about, and then when I read it, it actually clicks.
Right.
So yeah, they have been very helpful. So please continue.
Thanks. I will. I'm glad it was helpful for you. And yeah, mixed media is interesting to see if you have any of those collective visual activations. So, All right. Well, thank you very much for your sharing, and look forward to chatting again in the future for something in a similar kind of session.
Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. All right. Salamander, Chile, Tricklight, are you guys actually here, or is there anything you kind of sticking around to ask, or stay signed in? You're not actually there.
I'm actually here.
Hey,
Hey.
did you have a question, or were you curious to?
Mhm. No, I've just been listening in. I came in kind of late. This has been a really great session, though. hmm
Do you know if you have any of those channels in your chart from the knowing circuitry?
The I don't, I don't think I have any of the channels. I have just gates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd have sort of component aspects, and I mean, I wouldn't really be able to
Yeah,
say
yeah, I
much.
do. Yeah. Yeah, I have just components of it.
Do you kind of have any questions about individuality or knowing process, or hard to say much about your design unless I had
Um,
your chart. If you wanted me to bring it up, I could, but you
yeah, can you do that? How do I do that?
you can either
Yeah.
just type it in your birth data, you can tell it to me out loud, or you could send it to me in a direct message.
Here, let's see. Okay. Here, I'll just type it in.
Yeah, Salamander, we can have a look at your chart after you.
Okay.
Okay, give me a sec. In April 14th, 79.
Yes.
Olympia, Washington.
Yes. If it gives you a county like option, it should be Thurston.
That's okay. It just that
Okay.
worked. Just for
Oh,
the
okay.
general time zone. The
Oh, I see.
that's why the calculations need where you're born. So it knows what time zone you
Mm-hmm.
were in. So you okay if I bring your chart up on screen?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So a 4-6 projector,
Yes.
mental projector,
Yes.
your outer authority. Do you express an outer authority your as your path to
Mm-hmm.
success? You do?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. And did you sort of come to that naturally, or is that something that sort of happened as a result of human design insights? I'm just curious.
Um, let's see. I came into human design. I found human design before my Saturn return, and I I didn't really like. I would say human design really helped me like get into that more so because I was living as a 3 more, definitely before my Saturn return.
Yeah.
And yeah. and and I really started to dive into it and started trying to understand it after my Saturn return, after I got up on the roof. And so I started to understand what that was all about, because my life totally changed
Mm.
at my Saturn return, like completely just 180. Um and I was just kind of just uh I was very confused by the whole thing.
Mm.
um yeah. So yeah, I would say that human design really helped me like understand about, more so about like living my outer authority.
Right.
Mhm.
And being a projector and
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because I was definitely trying to go about my life as like a manifesting generator or a manifester or something like that. And just very just confused as to why things weren't working out for me. And I had like completely exhausted myself by the time I was like 30. And like um so human design is like just helped me tremendously with my health.
mm.
Like just I mean just like completely like helped me so much. It's just been really wonderful.
To help you maybe like restrain from expending energy in certain ways that,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Uh-huh. Mhm.
yeah. Especially as like a no motor mental projector, right?
Right, right, exactly. Yeah.
You actually have a lot of individual knowing in your design, like a lot.
Mhm. Yeah.
You have
Yep.
representation, I'd say primarily of significance within all three awareness centers, right? You got the 57,
Mhm.
43, and the 22. Would you kind of consider yourself a graceful, intuitive listener?
Yes. Yes.
And yet at the same time, you have your own inner voice. And so maybe you're always kind of taking in what other people say, and yet also accommodating your own inner perspective at the same time, sort of like listening to me right now talk to you, and you're going, yes, that's true, but, or, uh,
Yeah, I have the 4323 activated right now because Uranus is in the 23.
yeah,
And so it's, it's a long-term transit, so it's in there right now in the gate of structuring. And um it's been really interesting because I've had a lot of requests from people to do presentations and
mm,
that kind of thing. That's normally it's a little bit more, I would say, challenging for me to like structure things and kind of get them like out of my head and present them to people. But that's been rather interesting with the transit there.
yeah, giving you an extra flair of assimilation. The 23 assimilates, right?
Right,
It
right.
sort of unifies what could otherwise be a cornucopia of knowing into a single efficient explanation. Um, and it's an interesting thing with your design too, where you have the channel of abstraction. So you may find that your mind is filled with imagery, is potentially trying to make sense of the past, and yet at the same time, you have a very logical channel associated with your communication style as well. So, and somewhere in the middle, your individual unique insights play a part in how you ultimately express and organize the details of your storytelling or your presentations. Um,
Yeah, that's so true. My mind is filled with images for sure.
Very visual mind, yeah, a hint
Mhm.
of an acoustic mind. Yeah, you say you're making presentations and been invited to present certain things. talk about them to a group, right? And help to lead and influence the group. I'd say too, Jupiter in the 31 and the 56, it's expansion, your personal law has a lot to do with communicating, stimulating way that brings influence to the group that you've been invited to guide in a logical manner. Again, very strong outer authority as a projector, and it's great to hear that you're kind of resonating to that, especially in the Cross of Maya, because Cross of Maya has a lot to do with expressing detail and sort of having an instinct in times of growth and transformation, or what new inspiring detail is actually worth communicating to help organize other people. For example, and I'm not saying that this applies to you directly, but I have my brother-in-law is on the Cross of Maya, and he's an architect, right? So he deals a lot with the expression of obviously detail work and bringing projects to maturation and sort of making splenic decisions to help the tribe be successful or his projects be successful. And he's always under pressure to kind of come up with new innovative ways of thinking about things. And I would say in many ways that sort of applies to you as well. Like in times of business transformation where sort of continuity may be at risk, you may be sort of seen to as a role model or an example of someone who can explain things and organize the details to help lead the group who is otherwise uncertain of what direction to go in. To think about. Yeah, a lot of individuality, 57, 22, 38, 60. Do you like music? Do you have like particular taste for music?
I love music.
Yeah.
I love music. Yeah. Music's a big part of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I'm very sensitive to sound and just, I love music.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can almost say that music is something you deeply value. You got the 22nd gate in Venus. And the 22nd gate is the gate of the left ear. It's you got the right ear, which listens in the now, the left ear, which listens through the wave, and the 43, which listens to its own inner voice. It's like music that speaks to your inner ear, your emotions. Probably really important. Are you feeling good?
Yes, absolutely.
So Salamander, are you still there? Do you want me to have a look at your chart? I think this Salamander would be the last.
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking around. Very patient.
Thank you for taking the time.
Okay.
I was hesitant, but this is exciting.
So what's your experience level with human design?
So I just got it started in April. So pretty new still. I mean, I've done a lot of reading at this point. My main thing has been like just recognizing my waves and recognizing my not self. So yeah, but I don't know if, the whole following my strategy and authority has been hard just because I can't I don't pick up on my waves all the time. So I feel like I have to get through that first.
Okay. Are you familiar with your profile?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, I have the Neutrino app, so I've gone through like all of that information pretty frequently. So yeah, and then it's funny how you were saying earlier about the music. I am so dependent on music, and then that's actually one of the ways I've been trying to discern from my high and low waves is like based on the music or the playlist that I'm listening to.
well, there you go.
Yeah.
So is this your chart? Are you a 6-2 manifesting generator?
Yes.
Left angle cross of education?
Yes.
Are you an educator in any way, shape, or form at this stage of your life?
No, at the moment I'm just working IT actually, so I don't know. I haven't seen anything because I have looked at like my incarnation cross. So nothing has lit me up there yet. but I'm recently out of school, so.
You're born in 98, so you're actually still in your first phase and you're 6'2".
Right.
So you're not even remotely close to the fulfillment of your incarnation cross too, which can be a great relief for you if your life
No,
is
it definitely
currently filled with
is.
trial and error. It's kind of a phase that you're going through.
Yeah, definitely finding out about the 3 phases I will live, like being a 6,
Hmm.
has been helpful in a way, but also, I don't know, kind of, I don't want to say concerning, but it's just I felt very much that I was living the 3 life until the last 2 years. I felt like super hermity, and I'm like, oh my God, am I getting into the roof early? But I know that's not possible, but I've been having second guesses concerning that lately.
Remember what I said too about the 1222 being like social antisocial?
Yeah, and when you said that, I was like, that is so accurate. Because I know I'm 6'2", so the 2 is unconscious, but I was like, I feel like I am so conscious of my hermiting at times, but it's probably that 1222.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I would say too, and the fact that you have second line qualities that are showing up in your environment. Um, Easier for you to see that in your outer world that you're a hermit.
Interesting. Yeah, because that definitely makes sense.
And I would say too, honestly, a lot of your uh, sort of lessons is about who you're bonded to and what kind of relationships you're engaged with at a tribal level as well. Um, Being selective and sort of who you partner with and being selective with who you engage with at a supportive level, because you can see your 59.6, 1949. Those two
Yeah.
channels also play a tremendously significant part of your emotions and sense of satisfaction. Um, of course, the social butterfly component of you in the 1222 is what actually expresses and sort of who the world sees, but at this sort of deeper, sort of private level, your tribal lives, it would be important for you to also really pay attention to that aspect as well. And really, I don't know if you were around for the tribal defense circuit um, talk that I
I
gave,
think I
but
might have missed that one.
so the 59.6 and the 2750, these channels have a lot to do with like bonding and mating and reproduction and nurturing of our
Mhm.
young and our children. And I would say as a generator with that kind of energy, it would be like kind of courting. Are you familiar with the term courting?
Yeah.
Taking your time before spontaneously jumping into new social relationships, if you know what I mean, is like probably something to practice with. uh,
No, that's actually good advice because I have looked when I first started the 659 is probably one of the first channels I looked at, and
uh-huh.
I know I think it's the 59 I have in the second line or the
Mm-hmm.
6. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting because it's like a sexual being, but with the line too. So that has definitely hit. Definitely, I the tribal is interesting for me because I feel I have always had a hard time kind of getting into the tribe and things like that. And then at least learning that I was a single and not like a split or anything like made more sense. But
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I find myself focusing more on wanting to be with the tribe, but not knowing where to get in there, kind of thing.
Well, the way you have it is really about the pressure and to sort of be of service and to provide practical resources for others. The 19.2, 19.3, 49.5. So, you're not a materialist, you're not a transmitter, you're not necessarily there to do favors for the community, but you can have a pressurized sensitivity to the wants and needs of the tribe that maybe through your empowered doing can help to bring about. You know what I mean? It's like being aware of what other people need, being aware of what you need, but yeah, in terms of how you access the tribe, bring practical provisions, potential sensitivity to the practical needs of others be a big thing.
That is interesting that you say that because as I try with new friendships, I feel like a big thing on my mind is like what do I have to offer kind of? And I
Yeah.
find I sometimes will put my worth as a friend and like am I worthy to be their friend if I can't offer X, Y, or Z?
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, the worthiness trip. You have an open heart center. Hey, not uncommon.
Yeah.
That would be, as as I would imagine you already know, a not self dialogue.
Yeah.
You know.
Definitely the open heart it hits the not self of that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's actually probably one I struggle with seeing more than like my open head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's just it can be very difficult for the mind, but very easy for the true self to overcome when you realize that you just really have nothing to prove. And also, be careful with making spontaneous promises, because that may elicit sort of a negative emotional response from within you.
Yeah, that I actually have been more aware of as of late.
You know, like undefined ego people, like myself, I also have an undefined heart center. Most people do, by the way. Very common.
Right.
One of the most common open undefined centers in humanity. Most people feel unworthy of themselves, and most people feel as though they need to make promises to others to prove themselves so that other people will accept them into the gathering and provide them with the sustenance and nurturing that they so desire. But I would say for you being so individual, again, finding material support through, again, education. I would encourage you as you continue to grow and as you continue to develop as an individual to look into ways in which you can be seen as like a public speaker potentially,
Oh my
especially
gosh.
the fact that the 2212 is both sixth line at a conscious level, and you may find that that's you know see, individuals need to do something unique and creative to make money. And one of the ways that they do that is through speaking and being like a keynote speaker, um, or education, or singing. You said music is a big part of your life.
That's interesting to me. I have so much anxiety with public speaking, even if it's like amongst like a small group or something like that. So I don't know, when I first started learning about my chart, I thought it was funny that I had my throat defined and I have such hesitancy when it comes to speaking and things of that nature.
Got the 12-6 in detriment, which is not a terrible thing, but it is sort of cautious, being sort of cautious in the way you engage with other social situations. But again, being sixth line, especially at an unconscious level, it will come in time. Your trust in your own ability to have positive social impact through your education, whether it be education that you participate in, or more importantly and specifically, education that you provide for others. And just like with Soul Elixir earlier, where she was a 1/8, so she had this like a unique way of offering her astrological readings, but undefined ajna to throat, anxious, right? Anxiety, not sure how to actually necessarily explain yourself clearly. But notice
Yeah.
your speaking comes from your emotions, right? And this is what I said. Sorry. This is why I was saying earlier how, because how it's all tied into your design. To be satisfied in your intimate relationships is really important because it's going to affect how you ultimately present to other people as a social person.
That, yeah, that is so funny that you say that. I have had some tumultuous relationships and I now that you say that, I recognize the way I communicated during those times, even if it's just to my friends about it or not even to the person specifically. Better awareness.
It's all tied in, you see, in your in the
Yeah.
context of your circuitry, you know. So being a manifesting generator, sort of an independent, self-empowered, sensitive individual who can provide education to the collective in time, no rush, you know.
Yeah, that I have to keep remembering that part because
Yeah.
the anxiety creeps in if not.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's something you have to give yourself permission to make mistakes in what you say and not to let what you say just one time, one little thing that you say wrong or one little thing that you can't remember, one little thing that you can't recall ruin your whole life. Okay? That's what happens with people who have the open head ajna is it's like one occurrence when they're 6 where they couldn't precisely remember the right answer, and now for the rest of their lives they think they're incapable of being an intellectual person. It's not true. You know, it's just you need to give yourself the permission to take another shot at it, to come at it from a different perspective, and to practice like deep breathing, as the solar plexus is associated with the lungs, and to remember that what's really true for you and your true self is going to be spoken from the emotions anyway.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate that because I do see the one mistake and I won't let myself do anything remotely similar again. And I've had situations where I've had to kind of do something again. And I'm always surprised in those situations how I didn't falter the way I might have the first time or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I will definitely keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, keep pushing upwards. You know, you're 46. Have determination to share your ideas as an individual, and just, you know, you do so innocently, so no fault in that. You know, an innocent determination to share your ideas with the collective.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, music. When you're feeling melancholy, when you're feeling a little empty, feels like the cup is half full or not full at all, as a 55. You know, music, um, and being, you know, honest in your sort of communication style with other like friends and your social network. You know, like when you're in the mood to socialize, it's a great time to do it. When you're not, be mindful of that for your own sense of satisfaction.
Yeah, for sure. That I have to keep that in mind. Learning about that has been so helpful. And also, like, I feel like I have given myself permission now. If I'm not feeling like it, I won't do it.
Yeah, and it's the application of that principle over and over and over again, like as much as possible, as is appropriate for you throughout your entire life, that makes the difference, you know, ultimately at the end of the day. Because then you're not in a situation where you're interacting with other people in an intimate way or otherwise, just like a supportive socializing way, and not bringing you that signature. Um, yeah, and again, as a 6, patience is a virtue, like recognizing that
Yeah.
you have a greater purpose later on in life, and it's trust that that's something that evolves over an extended period of time. And keynote speaking, impactful communication style, um, maybe empowering other people to be okay with uncertainty, or even speaking about your own process. Remember, role models is like we're meant to be here to like be an example of ourselves for other people. Oh, I hope you
No,
found that helpful.
that's good. I did. Thank you so much. I definitely, this was so helpful, and I'm going to keep thinking about this and remembering because it's the little things, and thank you.
You're welcome.